What were the challenges that wannabe radio jockeys face and how can they overcome them?
Radio is not all about buck. In fact, radio is more about dhak. Jeetu speaks about 8 to 9 Indian languages.
Hello and welcome to Pod Spectrum. It's your host Aaron Fernandez. In today's episode, we have a distinguished guest, Mr. Noel Keymer, an ex-radio jockey, businessman, copywriter, and an author. Mr. Noel Keymer has written a book named Everything You Need to Know About Radio Jockeying. As the book title says, our today's episode as well is going to be all about radio jockeying. Enjoy the episode. So, welcome to Pod Spectrum.
My pleasure to be here, Aaron.
To kick things off, sir, could you tell us how you got into the world of radio?
Well, actually, it all happened by accident. So I was in my last year of college, went down to meet a friend who was down with jaundice. And when I went there, he was pretty stressed. I said, "Why are you stressed?" So he said, "I have to do a radio show tomorrow. I can't do it." I said, "Oh hell, what are you going to do?" And suddenly came with the bright idea, "You do it." And I said, "Me, I don't know head or tail about it." He said, "Nothing, it's easy." He convinced me to go and do it. I went and did it, loved it. And apparently they loved it too because they asked me to come back. And that was when I started radio. This was way back in the early 80s. And this was on AM.
Okay. Sir also stated that if the radio jockey doesn't communicate with the listeners, then there's a dead air. And with the dead air, he or she might lose their job. So could you elaborate on dead air?
Okay, so radio is theatre of the mind. Why do I call it theatre of the mind? Is because you cannot see anything on radio. You can't see the RJ, you can't see the background, you can't see what he or she is wearing. And you only know the RJ is there because he's talking to you. So dead air is when there is no sound effect, there is no song, the RJ is not talking to you. And mainly this could happen because the RJ has forgotten his lines or he's gone blank. So dead air is when there's no sound at all on radio. So then when dead air happens, you don't know whether the channel has gone off, the station is shut down, the RJ has gone to the loo or what. So dead air should not happen on radio. If dead air does happen on radio 2 or 3 times, for whatever reason, then most probably in a professional radio channel, the RJ would be out of a job.
Then it's a backup.
Then you and me get on.
Okay, sir. Moving ahead, every career has its challenges. What were the challenges that wannabe radio jockeys face and how can they overcome them?
Well, basically, first of all, the wannabe RJs need to understand that radio is not all about buck. In fact, radio is more about dhak, which is music, and less buck. Professional RJs which are there now, on every 1 hour show which they have, they do not talk for more than 6 or 7 minutes, broken into segments. So if an RJ thinks I'm going to go there, blow the world with my jokes, with me being funny and my stories and this and that, very wrong. So first of all, you got to understand that you are not there to change the channel. You are there to fit into the channel. Understand what type of music they play, understand the type of programs they have and fit in. So people who go in wild-eyed and say, I'm going to go in and they fail. So you got to understand what does the channel want. You learn how to write scripts. So which is why it's good if a person does a radio jockey course, like the course I run, where we teach you what is scripting, what is a link, how many words in a link, how to write a dial-in show, an interview show, what are the questions to ask, how to handle somebody who's being obnoxious on a dial-in show, music show, then modulation, projection, inflection of voice, how the news is read. If you get through all these things and learn them and make a demo CD at a good RJ class, the chances are not 100%, but they're weighed in your favor that the chances of you getting through are very, very much higher.
Okay, so I will just state for the listeners that Noel sir is the first radio jockey to have his own radio school. So what was the inspiration behind starting your own radio school?
Good question, Aaron. See, when I got into radio, I had a lot of people ask me, where did you learn? So as I joked with a lot of people and I said, I learned from the School of Hard Knocks. So I had one guy ask me, where is it? I want to go. But School of Hard Knocks, I mean, mar ke, dar ke, kar ke. So when I had so many people asking me about this, I decided to start a radio jockey class. So the first radio jockey class I started was in 1999. The first class I had 17 students. It's been almost two decades now. And my students are now on radio in India, in Pune, Mumbai. They are in Bahrain, they are in UK, there are a whole lot of places. They're doing very well.
So it's also important for the radio jockey to adapt to its show language because as familiar they are with the language, the more they can excel.
Yes, another guy who I really look up to is a guy called Jeetu, RJ Jeetu. Yeah. Jeetu Speaks about 8 to 9 Indian languages, apart from English and Hindi. He'll talk to you in Gujarati, he'll speak to you in Konkani, he'll speak to you in Marathi, Bengali. So he has that type of rapport. When you speak to him, he'll talk to you in a language, he puts you at ease.
Amazing. So I also wanted to know that what used to be your style on the radio show?
My style is very easy. I used to make sure that the people I'm interviewing are at ease, because we need to realize that we go blah 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 all the time. Everybody doesn't do that. So a man might be a great IT technician, he might be a doctor, he might be a writer, a surgeon, but he's not a good talker. So I used to go out of my way to meet people, have a coffee with them, share the questions which I'm going to ask, tell them to write down the answers, rehearse the answers once or twice, then go on air, because then there's a certain comfort level. Otherwise, I'm going 19 to the dozen and that guy saying, yes, Noel, no, Noel, not happening. So I used to make sure that people are very comfortable. And I used to also make sure that my listeners, I used to keep on reminding, I said, on the dial-in show, please call me. I said, because if you don't call me, I won't be able to talk to anybody. I'm going to be out of a job. So people used to actually say, you told me to call, now I called. I said, how sweet.
Great. So also in the modern world, abusive content is being promoted. What's your view on that?
Actually, there is a law, which is a broadcasting law, which some people are getting out of the box. So the broadcasting law is very simple. You cannot say anything negative about anybody. You cannot say anything negative about neighboring countries. You cannot talk about alcohol. You cannot talk about smoking. But some people are breaking it, and those who get pulled up are good. Those who don't get pulled up, then they get bolder. But I think when you get on radio, you need to realize it's family listening in, children are listening in, ladies are listening in. Keep your jokes, family jokes, whatever you are saying, keep decorum. Don't make fun of people. It doesn't mean you have the mic in your hand, you can talk about anybody and everybody. Formerly in radio, as well as in Hindi movies, we had amazing comedians. We had Mehmood, we had Jagdeep, we had Keshtu Mukherjee. These guys are so funny without using abusive language, without using four-letter words, without using talk mode body parts. And we all enjoyed it. But now if you go to stand-up humor, it's all sex, which is wrong. Humor can be funny without being sexual.
Sir, often when you receive feedbacks, you receive both positive and negative.
Yes.
So, sir, how do you handle the highs and lows?
You got to be reasonable and say, is this person doing it or saying it because he really means it, or is he trying to make fun of me, or is he just being obnoxious or whatever? So I think you got to be reasonable and say, yes, if I have made a mistake, or if I've been overdoing play 80s music and somebody says enough of 80s, let's have 2000 or whatever. See, yeah, okay, maybe I've been overdoing it just because I like 70s and 80s music. Okay, so I'll say, okay, next week 2000, 2010, I'm playing more, not playing retro, I'm playing more popular. So that way you got to be mature enough to keep in mind, is it positive, constructive criticism, or the guy just wants to bring you down?
Sir, are there any exercises that any aspiring radio jockey can follow before going on air?
Yeah, there are many exercises, but you really need to learn them in a radio jockey class. But simple advice I can give you is, if you're going on air, don't drink cold water or anything cold which might affect your throat. Don't eat something which has a lot of chilies or very spicy, which again might affect your throat. Don't smoke if it affects your throat. So these are basic stuff. Like, realize what affects your throat and avoid those things.
So basically the communication has to be clear.
Communication has to be clear anywhere. And without communication, what would we do?
That's true.
You and me wouldn't be talking. Right now what we're doing is communicating.
Yeah. So as we come to the end, looking ahead, what do you think about the future of radio in India while podcasting is coming up?
Podcasting is another ball game, because for a podcast, you need to have phone or a smart device you can download the podcast. Podcasts are also not live. They're recorded and you can listen to them. While radio is a live thing. If I'm on air, you can call me, talk to me, chat with me, tell me you hate me, tell me you love me. So many things you can do. Okay, about the future of radio, I feel radio has become very claustrophobic. Almost everybody's playing the same songs. News is not allowed on radio. News is allowed on TV. You have hundreds of news channels. So I think until the Indian government opens up and allows news on radio, you'll have so many news channels coming in, then radio will really leapfrog. It will double and triple and quadruple. Second, I feel we need to get specific channels here, like abroad. Like abroad, you have a channel 24/7, they play jazz. Yes. Another channel 24/7 plays country and western, hip hop, retro, reggae. So we need to get dedicated channels like this happening here, where you get into a niche and you tune in every day and listen to the type of music which you like, rather than I like 3 songs, I didn't like the other songs. So one is, news should be allowed. 2, channels need to expand and get into a certain groove and grow in that. That radio will really leapfrog.
So, sir, it was great having you on Pod
Lovely
Spectrum.
being here, Aaron. I'm so glad that you are also radioactive like me.
Yes.
And let's hope listening to this show, people will get radioactive and listen to radio.
Thank you for joining us into this insightful episode with Mr. Noel Keymer, all about radio jockeying. For further episodes, stay tuned with Pod Spectrum. This is your host, Aaron Fernandez, signing off.